Even a short trip into the Himalayas takes preparation. A small team and I would be hiking through mountain trails at elevations higher than any of us had ever experienced, unless flying in a plane. Almost unimaginably, more than 100 peaks in the Himalayas soar above 24,000 feet. This mountain range spans 5 different countries: Nepal, India, Bhutan, China, and Pakistan. 6 if you count Tibet. I knew the trip would be physically demanding, so I trained by doing CrossFit, walking on an inclined treadmill every morning for months, and hiking to the crest of the highest mountain near me. Unfortunately, that mountain soared a mere 1,000 feet above sea level. That's not even a hill in the Himalayas. In addition to physical training, packing for the trek required careful planning. Each member of the team would need to carry all his own gear. That is, no assistance from Sherpas or yaks. So the goal was to hold the weight of all our clothing and miscellaneous gear to no more than 20 pounds. Since at the highest elevation we would sleep with temperatures well below freezing, this meant toting a down sleeping bag rated to 15 degrees. Also going in the backpack, a change of clothes for midway through the trek, a small towel and minimal toiletries, a hat, sunscreen and sunglasses for daytime hiking, a headlamp for hiking at night, a filtered water bottle, snacks, not a lot of vending machines along the trail, a Bible, and a journal. Backstory. Just how did I end up on this trek? Primarily, it was because of a meeting one day with a guy named Aaron, who is now a good friend of mine. I first met Aaron when he visited the church where I was the pastor. He introduced himself to me after a worship service and told me he lived in Asia, but that was all. I didn't see him again for a couple more years. During those years, God led my wife, Heather, and me to pursue adopting a child from the same country where Aaron lives. We had heard about living conditions there for many children, including young girls who were enslaved for sex, so we decided to bring one of these children into our family. We started the adoption process, and night after night, Heather and I gathered together with our 2 boys at the time and prayed for their little sister-to-be. Everything went smoothly, and our next step was to be matched with a specific little girl. Then, without warning, this country closed down adoption for foreigners. Our hearts were devastated. That Christmas was a sad one for us, so I wrote a poem for Heather, my attempt to express the heaviness we both felt. I detailed all the struggles we had been through, the deep longings we had experienced to have this special girl be part of our family. Expressing these feelings in the voice of the child we'd never meet, I ended the poem with these lines. So let love hope and let love plead to God on behalf of a prospective little daughter-to-be. And regardless of whether or not my parents one day you'll be, please promise that your family will never stop praying for me. This country remained closed, but Heather and I trusted that God had put this place on our hearts for a purpose. So when we weren't able to adopt, the next time Aaron was passing through and said hello after another church service, I said, "Can you and I meet together in my office tomorrow morning?" The next day, Aaron shared with me how the living conditions for many children in his country were indeed dire, and that more girls than either of us could or would want to imagine were enslaved for sex. As we talked, he invited me to join him on a trek, and it was a no-brainer. I was in. Saying goodbye. I love visiting other parts of the world to share the gospel, but I hate saying goodbye. Since I travel overseas a fair amount, and these trips aren't always to destinations the U.S. State Department recommends for travel, I try to keep a letter updated to Heather and our kids, just in case something were to happen to me. Needless to say, writing that letter is never enjoyable, but it's a precious reminder of how much you love those closest to you. On this trip, I was encouraged that 2 men would accompany me. First, there was Chris, a lifelong friend I've known since childhood. We now work together in an organization called Radical, a global ministry and giving platform aimed at serving the church and spreading the gospel on the front lines of urgent need around the world. You can find out more information about Radical at radical.net. Our second trekking teammate was a man I just met. He goes by the nickname of Siggs, and his role would be to document the trip with photography and video. I learned quickly that Siggs is an adventurous soul who has a special talent for asking questions that really make me think. In addition to carrying his personal effects in his pack, he would also lug the camera gear, complete with extra batteries. Finding electrical outlets to recharge equipment in the Himalayan backcountry? Well, good luck with that. Good news? En route, as the plane sailed through one time zone after another, I tried to sleep. I read my Bible and jotted some notes in my journal. I started missing Heather and the kids. I prayed silently for them in a deep way, asking God for an extra measure of His protection and provision for them while I'd be gone. I also had an interesting conversation with a seatmate. His name was Charles, and I learned that he was from the Congo. He also was blind. Telling me some of his story, he shared that his blindness was the result of a botched eye surgery. As we became better acquainted, I told him the purpose of my trip and had an opportunity to share the gospel with him. Charles was not thrilled to find out I was a follower of Jesus. He told me how his people had been hurt and harmed by some missionaries from Europe who, according to him, in the name of Christ, had done disastrous things in his country. As a result, Charles's view of Jesus was significantly and sadly distorted. It humbled me to hear that his experience with the good news, as he had heard it, was not good at all. Apparently, it's possible for various misrepresentations of the gospel to actually drive people further away from God. I did my best to convince Charles that the true Jesus is nothing like those people who had hurt him, but he seemed unconvinced. Later, I scribbled reflections in my journal about my desire to never misrepresent Jesus. Oh God, that's the last thing I want to do. Please help me, help us, to give people an accurate picture of you that draws them to you, not pushes them from you.